This is lesson 7, and we'll be learning about the 7 survival characteristics of mollusks. And you'll see on your note guide on the right hand side that you'll be filling out the 7 survival characteristics for each mollusk class. That's because mollusks fulfill these survival characteristics in vastly different ways depending on their class, and so you need to fill in the characteristics for each class. And we'll go through those as we go through each characteristic. But first, let's just review the lesson from last time. What is a mollusk? Remember, molluscus is Latin for soft, and mollusks are soft-bodied animals that usually have an internal or an external shell. They do have 4 parts to their body plan. They have a foot, which can be divided into arms or tentacles. They have a mantle, which can secrete an external shell if the shell is present. They sometimes have an external shell. It can be internal as well, as it is in cephalopods. And they have a visceral mass, which is a mass of internal organs. We have 3 mollusk classes. And the first one is class Gastropoda. That literally means stomach foot. And these are snails and slugs. So remember, here's the foot of the gastropod, and the stomach is located just right here, which is why this is called a stomach foot or a gastropod. The next mollusk class we talked about was class Bivalvia. These are clams and oysters. This particular example is a scallop. They have 2 shells, and Bivalvia literally means 2 shells. Then we have class Cephalopoda. Cephalopoda literally means head foot, and the head, which is located right here, is just above the foot, which is divided into tentacles here. The brain, the head, the eyes, all right here on top of the foot. So now let's talk about the 7 survival characteristics. First, there's a wide variety of feeding types in phylum Mollusca. We have herbivores, carnivores, detritivores, parasites, or filter feeders, so lots of different ways to eat. In gastropods, they have a radula. So you need to write down radula, and that's a structure with tiny teeth used to eat. And you saw that in some of the movie clips from last lesson. They have these tiny teeth that rasp and can, some are sharp enough to open up other shells. Some eat kelp or other plants, and they're present in gastropods. Siphons are present in bivalves, and they are used to filter food, so they suck in food through these siphons and filter out the food particles and then expel the rest of the water out. And then cephalopods have a sharp jaw or beak. And this is a beak from a squid, very sharp, and it can move up and down like a jaw can, used to eat. So now on to respiration. Aquatic mollusks use gills. So cephalopods and bivalves have gills. Terrestrial or land-dwelling mollusks use part of the mantle that has been modified into a lung, and that's gastropods. So gastropods have a lung, which is actually a part of the mantle that's just been modified, and then aquatic mollusks like cephalopods and bivalves have gills. Here are the gills of a squid. This is a giant squid, but you can see the gills right here. The water flushes on the gills, and oxygen gets taken in from the gills into the bloodstream, and then the carbon dioxide gets taken out. Here is a diagram of a terrestrial mollusk or a gastropod. Here's the lung, which is part of the mantle. The same thing happens here. Oxygen gets taken into the bloodstream and carbon dioxide gets deposited out. Now on to circulation. There are 2 types of circulatory systems in mollusks, and the first one is an open circulatory system. And that's where blood moves from the heart into vessels, into sinuses, which are open sac-like spaces, then to the gills, where it picks up oxygen again, and back to the heart. Open circulatory systems are in slow-moving mollusks like gastropods and bivalves. Open circulatory systems do help transport oxygen, nutrients, and waste, but they aren't very fast at doing it. And so mollusks that don't need to move very fast, or that can't move very fast, like gastropods and bivalves, use open or have open circulatory systems. So here's a picture of an open circulatory system in a bivalve. So here's the heart. What happens is the blood gets pumped out of the heart and then leaves, and here you'll see some sinuses, some sac-like spaces. So there aren't any vessels. The blood just fills up these spaces, and then the blood gets taken back through these blue veins and then back to the gills here where it picks up oxygen, and then it gets taken back to the heart, pumped through the body, into the open sinuses, back to the gills, back to the heart. So that's the way an open circulatory system works. Then we have closed circulatory systems in fast-moving mollusks. And the way this one works is it moves from a heart to vessels to capillaries to gills and back to the heart. So instead of having a sinus, they have capillaries, which are the smallest blood vessels. These are in fast-moving mollusks. This is a very efficient circulatory system, and so the blood can move fast. And in fact, squid have 3 hearts and can move blood around their bodies as fast as a human can. So they can move fast, get oxygen and nutrients around the body very quickly. So here's a simple diagram of a squid circulatory system. Here's one of the hearts, and here's one, and here's one. So the blood gets pumped to the body, gets taken back to the gills where it's oxygenated, and then back through the heart to the body, into capillaries, back up through the gills, and then back to the heart. For excretion, all mollusks use nephridia, which is a very primitive form of kidney. So we'll see right here this little green blob called a nephridium. Nephridium is singular for nephridia. Nephridia is the plural. And what happens is the blood is little capillaries or blood vessels surround the nephridia, and the waste gets diffused into the nephridia, and then the waste gets collected and exits out the body. The anus is used for digestive waste, and all mollusks have an anus, no matter what class they're in. For response, bivalves and gastropods have simple nervous systems and sense organs. So they do have a brain, they have some nerve cords running through their body, they do have simple eyes sometimes. But cephalopods have very well developed nervous systems. Cephalopods are active and intelligent, they're very smart, they have well developed brains, they can remember and be trained, and they have excellent eyesight. Here's the nervous system of a squid. Big brain, large eyes, nerve cords that can run through the length of the body and through the arms and tentacles. And this is comparing an octopus eye versus a human eye. You can see that they're very, very similar. Octopi can see very well, can see details, can see light versus dark, very much like a human can. For movement, gastropods secrete mucus and move with their foot, so they have that muscular foot that can move. Some bivalves can move with their foot. Some scallops can use their foot to run away from predators, but some are sessile, meaning they don't move. And then cephalopods use jet propulsion. They suck water into their bodies and then expel it forcefully out, and that moves them. That propulsion of water can move them. For reproduction, gastropods and bivalves have external fertilization. That means eggs and sperm are released into the water, and then in the water they meet up and the eggs develop in the water. Cephalopods have internal fertilization, meaning sperm is inserted into the female and fertilizes the eggs. Then the female deposits the eggs outside of the body, And octopi or octopus females often guard the developing eggs until they hatch. So they do have some form of maternal care, which is kind of interesting. So that is reproduction, and that is the end of our 7 characteristics of survival. So make sure you have them filled out for all of your classes, and then check your answers, and you can move on to watch some videos and then to take the quiz.